Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra O'Connor, and I would like to welcome you to the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Please note that this meeting is being conducted in person and online. If anyone participating online needs help with Zoom during the meeting, please email Luke Carter at lucas, L-U-C-A-S, .carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, at greensboro-nc.gov. Members of the Commission are appointed by the City Council and serve without pay. The Commission reviews all original zoning and rezoning requests for the City of Greensboro. Each Commissioner normally visits each site prior to this meeting. The procedure used at all public hearings is as follows. Planning staff presents background information and makes a recommendation. The applicant will present a short summary on how he or she communicated with the neighborhood and why the request is reasonable. Other persons in favor of the request speak a shared 10 minutes each. Speakers opposed to the request also share 10 minutes of speaking time. Those in favor of the request share 5 minutes of rebuttal. Those opposed to the request also share 5 minutes of rebuttal time. Any commission member may ask questions once a presenter has completed their presentation. All commissioners are required to vote unless they have a conflict of interest. In an effort to run the meetings more efficiently, the Planning and Zoning Commission may reorganize the meeting agenda. Cases in which no opposition has been expressed to the Planning Department and in which no commission members feel necessitate in-depth discussion will be moved to the top of the agenda. Staff will provide a shortened presentation for these expedited cases, and applicants have up to 2 minutes to address the Commission if they desire to provide any additional information they want the Commission to know. Expedited cases will then follow the procedure outlined above. All denied cases and all approved ordinances receiving 6 or more favorable votes will constitute final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. All ordinances receiving a majority of favorable votes, but less than 6, will be subject to a public hearing by the City Council. When the case is called that you are interested in, people wishing to speak online will need to use the raise hand function, and you will be called upon to speak in the order in which hands were raised. Please find the raise hand function under the reaction button. People wishing to speak in person will need to come to the podium. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Please also direct all comments and questions to the Zoning Commission. Participants in the Zoom meeting will be able to view the meeting and speak when they are called upon. This meeting is being recorded and televised on Greensboro Television Network. In addition, the telecast is being closed captioned for the hearing impaired. At this point, before we proceed further, I'd like the commissioners to introduce themselves, starting at my far right.
Yes, Warshay Downing.
Andrew Egbert.
Mary Skeens.
Erica Glass.
Keith Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I understand Mr. Egbert is delayed, but will be here. Engel, I'm sorry, excuse me. Mr. Egbert, yeah, right. Yes, you did. Okay, then we will proceed with our agenda. The first item, of course, would be the approval of our minutes from the August 21st meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mary Skeens, second.
Thank you, Ms. Maggott and Ms. Skeens. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, then the minutes are approved. Are there any withdrawals?
Yes, Chair O'Connor, there's one case that has been withdrawn from tonight's agenda. It's case Z-23-08001 for 1701 Stanley Road. That request was withdrawn by the applicant, so no action is necessary by the commission.
Thank you very much. I wanted to mention that we only have one item on our agenda for which we have a speaker registered in opposition, and that is the item on Bradford Street. That means that every other item on our agenda is on the accelerated agenda, where we will have the briefer presentations. Is there anyone in chambers who didn't get registered or online who didn't get registered and wants to speak in opposition on any other matter on our agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we will proceed with all the other items except Bradford on our accelerated agenda. So that means our first item for consideration will be Z-23-09001 and PLP 2318, an annexation and original zoning request from County AG Agricultural to City R3 Residential Single Family 3 for the property identified as 219 Ward Road, generally described as south of Ward Road and east of Sharing Terrace, 0.86 acre.
Yes, and before I begin the staff presentation, I know there are several folks online in the audience were asking some questions earlier today about what is applicable in terms of the actions of the commission, and I want to confirm that the commission is only taking action on the subject properties this evening, and that action of the commission does not have any bearing on any adjacent properties in terms of use rights or their jurisdiction. So I just want to get that out for the public. Make sure everybody was on the same page with that this evening.
And excuse me for a moment, I jumped into our accelerated agenda and failed to recognize our legal
The attorney,
counsel.
Yes, that was the other thing.
Yes.
Chair O'Connor, thank you. I'll be brief. Just briefly, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that when the Planning and Zoning Commission is considering rezoning applications this evening, the Commission is making determinations that are based upon the land uses that are allowed under the proposed zoning district that is put forth in that rezoning application, and where applicable, any proposed conditions that are also included with the application. Now, land use concerns can be wide-reaching, and by way of example can include things such as impacts on public infrastructure, such as traffic concerns. These kinds of issues can be relevant when a new land use would be allowed by a rezoning. However, concerns that are not related to land use and the conditions of a rezoning application are not germane to the determinations that are made by this body. Such issues, for example, would include concerns about school impacts or generalized concerns about crime rates in an area. These kinds of concerns, again, are not germane to the discussions here tonight, but may be referred to the Planning Department or the Technical Review Committee as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Apologies.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. So the first item on our accelerated agenda is an annexation and original zoning request, again for 219 Ward Road. The request is to establish original city zoning of R3 residential single family from the current County AG agricultural. North of this request is currently zoned R30, RS30 residential single family. East and south of the request is County AG agricultural, and west of the subject property is zoned City R3. The subject property is currently a single-family dwelling. North, east, and west of the request are also single-family dwellings, and south of the request is an agricultural use. Staff has concluded this request is consistent with the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan, and that the R3 zoning district that is proposed is consistent with the surrounding uses and most similar to the existing uses on this property, and we are making a recommendation in favor of both requests. I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, then we have up to 2 minutes time for the applicant if they'd like to add any comments. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I'll be looking for 2 motions, one for annexation and then one for zoning.
I'd like to make a motion to annex PLP 23-18.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Maggott and Mr. Engel. Any other discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. That would pass unanimously. And then we'll take a motion on the zoning.
I'll make a motion for Z 23-09-001. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its actions to recommend approval of the original zoning request at the property of 219 Ward Road from County AG Agricultural to City R3 Residential Single Family 3 to be consistent with the adopted Greensboro 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. 1, the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future build format and land and future land use map. 2, the proposed City R3 zoning district permits uses that fits the contents of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and the surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Mary Skeens, second.
Thank you, Ms. Maggott and Ms. Skeens. Is there any comment? All right, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, this constitutes an approval, and it is final action unless an appeal is submitted. No, excuse me. It's a favorable recommendation, and it is subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is Z 23-09-002, a rezoning request from CDLI, Conditional District Light Industrial, to LI, Light Industrial, for the property identified as 3214 North O. Henry Boulevard, generally described as southeast of North O. Henry Boulevard and north of McKnight Mill Road, 2.55 acres. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Connor. Again, the request is to rezone from CDLI, Conditional District Light Industrial, to LI, Light Industrial. North of the subject property is currently zoned CM, Commercial Medium. East of the subject property is zoned R3, Residential Single Family. West of the subject property is zoned CM, and then RM18 further to the west, and then south of the subject property is zoned CM. The subject property currently contains an auto sales and service use. North of the request is a flea market. East of the request are single-family dwellings. South of the request are a cell tower and undeveloped land. And west of the request is U.S. Highway 29 with single-family dwellings located further to the west. Staff has concluded this request is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan, and we are recommending in favor of the rezoning request. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? We're seeing none. We do have up to 2 minutes available for the applicant if you would like to add any comments regarding this item. Okay, seeing none, unless there's an objection, we will close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Keith Peters. Item Z-23-09-002. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its action to recommend approval of the rezoning request for the property at 3214 North Old Henry Boulevard from CD-LI Conditional District Light Industrial to LI Light Industrial to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry. Can you speak into your mic? I'm having a hard time hearing you online. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now? Good, good. GSO 2040 Plan, comprehensive plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public's interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed LI zoning district permits uses that fit the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical condition, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Engel, any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, this does constitute a final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. Anyone can file such an appeal. All such appeals are subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. All adjoining property owners will be notified of any such appeal. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is PLP 2319 and Z-2309-003, an annexation and original zoning request from County RS 30, residential single family, to City CDRM 26, conditional district residential multifamily 26, for the property identified as 200 Wolf Trail Road, generally described as north of Wolf Trail Road and east of Randleman Road, 0.275 acres. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Connor. Again, the request is for annexation and original zoning from County RS 30 residential single family to City CD RM 26 conditional district residential multifamily. North, east, and west of the request are currently zoned City CD RM 26, and south of the subject property is zoned County RS 30 residential single family. The subject property is currently has a single family dwelling. North, east, and west request are currently undeveloped at this time, and south of the request are single family dwellings. This is a conditional zoning application, so these are the two conditions that are associated with the request and that were advertised as part of the hearing this evening. Staff has concluded that this request is consistent with the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan, and we are recommending in favor of the rezoning request. I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, the applicant has up to 2 minutes to provide any additional comments if you would like to do so. Seeing none, with no objection, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll look for two motions, one for annexation and one for zoning.
Chair O'Connor, this is Commissioner Engel. I would move that we annex the property.
Catherine Magid, second.
Thank you, Mr. Engel and Ms. Magid. Any comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, then we'll entertain a motion on the zoning, please.
I'd be happy to do that. In regards to agenda item Z-23-09-003, the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes its action to recommend approval of the the original zoning request for the property at 200 Wolf Trail Road from County RS 30 residential single family to City CD-RM 26 conditional district residential multifamily 26 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 comprehensive plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. One, the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future built form map and future land use map. Two, the proposed CD-RM-26 zoning district permits uses that fit the context of the surrounding area and limits the negative impacts on the adjacent properties. 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
Mary Gaines, second.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, this constitutes a favorable recommendation and is subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. Thank you. The next item on our accelerated agenda is Z-2309-004, a rezoning request from R3 Residential Single Family 3 to CDCL Conditional District Commercial Low for the property identified as 4309 Brinton Drive, generally described as west of Brinton Drive and south of Horsepin Creek Road, 0.56 acres. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Chair Connor. Again, the request is to rezone from R3 Residential Single Family to CDCL Conditional District Commercial Low. North of the subject property is currently zoned RM5 Residential Multifamily. East of the request is zoned R3 Residential Single Family and CDCL Conditional District Commercial Low. South of the subject property is zoned R3 Residential Single Family, and west of the request is zoned CD-RM8 Conditional District Residential Multifamily. Excuse me. Subject property is currently undeveloped at this time. North and south of the request are single-family dwellings. East of the request is also undeveloped, and west of the request is also undeveloped at this time. This is a conditional application. Oops, I don't have the other conditions. So these are the 5 conditions that were provided by the applicant and advertised as part of the hearing. Staff has concluded that this request is consistent with the adopted policies of the comprehensive plan, and we are recommending in favor of the rezoning request. I can answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, seeing no questions, if the applicant has any additional comments that you'd like to offer. Thank you, Mr. Isaacson. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its action to recommend approval for the rezoning request of the property at 4309 Britton Drive from R3 Residential Single Family 3 to CDCL Conditional District Commercial Low to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the actions taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan, future built format, and future land use map. The proposed CDCL zoning district permits use fit the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It is in the benefit of the property owner and the surrounding community, and the approval is in the public interest.
Commissioner Engel, second.
Thank you, Mr. Egbert and Mr. Engel. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? This approval constitutes a final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. Anyone may file such an appeal. All such appeals will be subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. All adjoining property owners will be notified of any such appeal. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item PLP 23-20 and Z23-09-005, an annexation and original zoning request from County RS 40 Residential Single Family to City R3 Residential Single Family 3 for the property identified as 4018 Sedgewood Lane, generally described as north of Sedgewood Lane and east of Groomtown Road, 0.497 acres. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Chair Connor. Again, the request is for annexation and original zoning from County RS 40 Residential Single Family to City R3 residential single family. All of the surrounding properties are currently zoned County RS40 residential single family. The subject property is an existing single family dwelling. North of this request is a stormwater pond and undeveloped land. East, south, and west request are single family dwellings. Staff has concluded this request is consistent with the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan and is recommending favor of these requests. I can answer any questions.
Any questions? No questions. The applicant has up to 2 minutes to make any additional comments if you would like. Seeing none, without objection, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll look for 2 motions, one on annexation and one on zoning.
Madam Chair, this is Keith Peterson.
Mr.
I'll make a recommendation for PL.
Peterson, can we? Yeah, thank you.
Annexation first.
Make a recommendation for annexation for PLP 23-20, annexation of 4018 Sedgwood Lane.
Commissioner Engel, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Engel. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None? Okay, then we need a motion on the zoning, please.
I make a motion, Chairman. This is Warshay Downing. A motion in regard to, we're doing 4018?
Correct. It's on the screen as well if you need it.
There we go. Motion in regard to POP 2320 and Z2309005, 4018 Sedgwood Lane. This is consistent statement by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that this action is recommended for approval of the original zoning request for the property at 4018 Sedgwood Lane from County RS40 Residential Single Family to City R3 Residential Single Family 3 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. So it's approval of the original zoning request. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, future built form map, and future land use map. The proposed City R3 zoning district permits use that it fits the context of surrounding areas and limits negative impacts of the adjacent properties. And the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It would benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Downing and Mr. Engel. Any further comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? This constitutes a favorable recommendation and is subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. The final item on our accelerated agenda is item PLP 23-21 and Z2309006, an annexation and original zoning request from County RS40 Residential Single Family to City CDLI Conditional District Light Industrial for the property identified as 3900 Randleman Road, generally described as west of Randleman Road and north of Pittman Road, 0.807 acres. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Chair Connor. Again, the request is annexation and original zoning from County RS40 Residential Single Family to City CDLI Conditional District Light Industrial. North and west of this request are zoned County RS40. East request is zoned County AG Agricultural, and south of the subject property is zoned City CDLI Conditional District Light Industrial. The subject property is currently undeveloped at this time. North, east, and west of the request contain single-family dwellings, and south of the request is an outdoor storage yard. This is a conditional application. These are the conditions that were provided by the applicant and advertised as part of this request. Staff has concluded this request is consistent with the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan and is recommending approval of these actions. I can answer questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Kirkman, just a comment, and just something for you to correct before this goes anywhere else. The staff report says 0.85 acres. This says 0.807. So we just need to make those tie before this goes to the next group.
Thank you for that note.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
All right, the applicant has up to 2 minutes to make any additional comments if you would prefer. If you'd please identify yourself when you come to the microphone, give your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gene Lester. I'm an attorney. My address is 400 Belmead Street, Greensboro, North Carolina. I represent the applicant. The applicant is Damon Malam. He is the owner of Malam Management Group. Previously, I handed you up a brief pamphlet with some additional information. We were here about 2 years ago on the adjacent properties for the same exact original rezoning and annexation request. And at that time, there were two neighbors. One asked for more information about his project, and the other one asked to sell an adjacent piece of property. The city council, this board and these commissioners and the city council approved those properties, and then Mr. Malam was able to acquire the adjacent lot. He submitted all of these, all of his plans to the TRC for permitting, and TRC came back and asked, and this is shown on pages 7, 8, and 9 of the materials, that the plan, which is for an accounting office and some car bays, would be better suited to include the adjacent piece of land that Mr. Malam bought from the neighbor at that time. And so we are here to ask that the commission recommend to the city council a rezoning of the adjacent property, the same as the other properties that we did 2 years ago. And the purpose, again, is that he runs a accounting business. He's generally busy between January and March with tax returns, and in the off-season he might do some car detailing at that location. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions? We don't have any. Thank you very much. Because this was on the accelerated agenda and we had no one registered to speak in opposition, we will now close the public hearing unless there's an objection. And we'll be looking for two motions, first on annexation and then on zoning.
This is Catherine Magid. I'd like to do the annexation for PLP 23-21. Make a motion to annex it.
Keith Peterson, second.
Thank you, Ms. Magid and Mr. Peterson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. Then we need a motion on the zoning, please.
Glad to do it. Z 23-09-006. This is Catherine Magid. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its action is to recommend approval of the original zoning request for the property at 3900 Randleman Road from County RS 40 Residential Single Family to City CDLI Conditional District Light Industrial to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 comprehensive plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons. 1, the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future build format and future land use map. 2, the proposed city CDLI zoning district permits uses that fits the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impact on the adjacent property. And 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and the surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Thank you, Ms. Magid.
Mary Skeens, second.
Thank you, Ms. Skeens. Any comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? This constitutes a favorable recommendation and is subject to a hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. Do we have the annual report this evening?
Oh, we have the one case with opposition, so I'm going to try to bring that back up here.
All right, we will revert to our regular agenda. And the next item is item
Sorry, almost there.
Z230900.
Bear with me here a minute.
Z23060005. 1918 and 1920 Bradford Street, east of Bradford Street and south of State Street. A rezoning request from CDO, Conditional District Office, to CDCN, Conditional District Commercial Neighborhood, with specified conditions. Mr. Kirkman?
Sorry, almost there. Okay, sorry about that. Again, the request is to rezone from CDO, Conditional District Office, to CDCN, Conditional District Commercial Neighborhood. North of the request is currently zoned CDO, Conditional District Office. East, south, and west request is zoned R5 Residential Single Family. The subject property currently contains an office use. North and northeast of the request is a religious assembly use. East, south, and west of the request are single-family dwellings. This is an image that shows the northern portion of the subject property as seen from Bradford Street. And this is the southern portion of the subject property as also seen from Bradford Street. This shows the religious assembly use that's located north and northeast of the subject property, zoned both CDO and R5. This is a single-family dwelling located east of request, zoned R5. This is a single-family dwelling located south of request, zoned R5. It's a single-family dwelling located west of request, zoned R5. And this is another single-family dwelling located west of the request, zoned R5. This is a view facing north on Bradford Street. The subject property here is located on your right. And this is view facing south on Bradford Street. Here, the subject property is on your left. This is a conditional zoning request, so these are the conditions that were offered by the applicant and advertised as part of this request. The GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates the site as urban central on the future built form map and residential on the future land use map. Staff has concluded the request does support the comprehensive plan's filling in our framework strategy to ensure revitalized sites are of high quality and complement existing neighborhood character, to encourage higher density, mixed use, and walkable infill development, and the growing economic and competitiveness goal to promote homegrown businesses, support entrepreneurship, cultivate industry leaders, and welcome major corporations and institutions. The proposed CDCN district request, as you noted in the conditions, prohibits eating and drinking establishments and requires the existing structure to be retained. As noted in the staff report, care should be taken with respect to visual buffers to ensure appropriate transitions to the lower density residential uses on adjacent properties. Staff is recommending approval of the request. I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Kirkman, not that I want to be, I think worst case scenario here, but let's say that at some point the structure burns down. What within the zoning conditions would require that, how would it be rebuilt?
We would not be able necessarily to require it to be rebuilt, but if it was rebuilt, it would need to be in the same, that condition would allow us to make sure it stays within the same footprint as the previous.
The same footprint or the same, look, or?
I think all we could say is the same footprint under that condition.
Okay.
I don't think we could go to the architectural side of the equation.
Okay, thank you.
As it's conditioned, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. Then the applicant has up to 10 minutes to speak in favor. If you'd come to the podium and identify yourself with your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Susan Mayer. My address is 1906 North Elm Street in Greensboro. In addition to reaching out to the neighbors in proximity, I put out an info tube type thing introducing myself, and I'd like to just read some excerpts from that. It kind of is a concise way of what my vision is. I said, please allow me to introduce myself and share some information about the upcoming meeting before the City Council. My name is Susan Mayer. I'm age 63 and an artist. My husband and I visited Greensboro in 2016 and fell in love. We soon relocated from Florida and purchased a home in the State Street neighborhood. Subsequently, we purchased the property on Bradford Street in March of this year. It is currently zoned commercial office. I have had a lifelong dream of opening a shop that would include all my favorite things with all my favorite people. I went on to describe what my vision was. I recently retired as a merchandiser for Reconsidered Goods, a local business. It is my hope to have the property rezoned to open Green Apple Garden and Goods. I envision a small shop bursting with greenery, creative projects, funky finds, vintage, and especially local artisan merchandise. I hope to showcase urban gardening as a fun way of greening up our spaces. It's my sincere wish to add to the unique State Street experience and offer another aspect to the blossoming shopping scene. I hope to inspire those who visit to nurture their creativity while connecting with others. I went on to say, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. I would be tickled, actually, to give a tour of what we've been up to so far. We are very excited about this endeavor. I did reach out to the neighbors, like I said, the one lady right next to me, the people across the street. In fact, they were all out socializing one evening, and I introduced myself and received nothing but, warm feedback. I did not receive any response to my flyer, although I did, give my phone number or Facebook if they preferred. I had a gentleman stop by who apparently owns a rental property on the street. His name is Jess Poole, and I gave an impromptu tour of the building. I was mowing the grass, and he said he and his wife are very invested in the area. She worked on State Street, and his consensus was this is exactly what this neighborhood needs. Again, I envision a small shop. I retired. That lasted about a year, so this has been my lifelong dream. I looked at several properties, always keeping in mind State Street as being just the vibe I was looking for. What I found particularly interesting about this property is that half of it is gravel parking lot. It was important to me not to be a negative thing to the neighborhood, that there would not be off-street parking, that it indeed has a well-maintained gravel parking lot, that it incorporates half of the property that I bought. It's one of the lots is in complete parking lot. So I thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 6 minutes and 36 seconds remaining if anyone else would like to speak in favor of the application. If you'd come to the podium and give your name and address.
My name is Courtney Curtis, and I live at 1704 Regents Park Lane in Greensboro. And I just have a couple of comments. I have known Susan for 6 years, since I joined the staff at Reconsidered Goods, and I've been involved at the Bradford property since its purchase. This has been a dream of hers, and she's been working to improve the property since she purchased it 6 months ago to hopefully make this dream come true. She truly loves the neighborhood in McAdoo Heights and the State Street area and only wants to be an asset to it and its residents. In fact, she herself lives in this neighborhood and has fallen in love with the congenial atmosphere. Susan is one of the most dedicated, hardworking people I know. Her work ethic is beyond reproach. Further, she is willing and eager to work with the neighborhood to make this successful and beneficial to everyone. I guess that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the application? We have 5 minutes and 46 seconds remaining. And if you'd give your name and address, please.
Of course. My name is Jenna Trezino, and I live at 1906 North Elm Street. Just wanted to express my favor for the shop and that it would be a great asset to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of the application? Do we have anyone online? Seeing no other speakers in favor, we have up to 10 minutes for anyone who wants to speak in opposition. I have one registered speaker, Mr. Young. If you'd like to come to the podium and give your name and address, please.
before I start, did you say you had images or no?
Yeah, we have the ones that you sent to us by email. Is that the ones you were referencing, Mr. Young?
All of these photos? Are these the images?
Yeah. I think is it how does it go just back and forth?
You can.
That's it, right? Okay.
You can use the arrows.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Young, and I live on 1907 Bradford Street. So on the street in question. I've lived there maybe, I think it's 25 years. And then before that, within this neighborhood, McAdoo Heights, I was on another street over as a renter. But I'm a homeowner, a taxpayer. But I wanted to go through these images very quickly. Just for the orientation, the State Street, as I'm saying here, this is like looking down the street on Bradford Street. State Street would be behind you. And from where you're standing approximately in this photograph to the property in question would be about 100 yards, right? So it's deep. My point is I'm going to make it's deep in the residential area. To the left-hand side, there's commercial space, then a parking lot, then the church lots, and then the 2018 was it? Sorry, not the two properties in question. I also note here on this photograph that you'll see we have a social district drinking boundary. There it is, right there. We got the sign posted, and then there are also just noting these. There are parking entrances. There are actually 3 in the photograph. So this is all very close to State Street. It can get very, very busy. It's a good thing that we're seeing all this commercial enterprise stuff going on along State Street. But the point I'm going to make is that we want to see the commercial stuff on State Street. We don't want to see it coming into Bradford Street if we can avoid that. The next image is just an orientation thing. So if you were standing there and you looked to your left, you'd be seeing down towards North Church Street, and there's the strip of State Street. For those who know, State Street has gone through ups and downs, so it's good. It's just good to see that it's improving. Alliance owns a lot of the street, but not all of it. And then looking the other way, that's Electric by Nature right on the corner there, and then looking towards North Elm Street. I took these photographs on purpose when it wasn't busy. I took them this morning. This is when the cars are not parked all over the place. In the evening time, this is not when all the young people come out, which is good, to our beer establishments and so on, which are located along this way. So we get a lot more traffic than in the 25 or so years that I've ever seen, and I think that's a good thing. But the point I'm going to make is that really we're not crazy about having more traffic on Bradford Street. So this is looking, if you were standing by the properties in question, 1918 and 1920, and you're looking down the rest of the street, the point here is that this street it's not a huge street. This is, I think, I'm going to guess, it's like maybe 340 yards long if you were to measure it. And already the property in question is already 100 yards deep away from State Street. And I know the owner would like to have a unique State Street experience, but her business is not on State Street. It's on Bradford. So as you can see from this photograph, I mean, this is a very, very residential street. Yeah, we do have the church there, and that's the back of the church, and you know, it's nice. It's their backyard and stuff. But we would really like to keep this as more of a residential feel to it. I think, you know, that's what we've seen in all these years. And then looking this way, this is the properties in question would be on your right-hand side. You see the zoning sign. The street is only like 17 feet wide. So when the school bus comes down the street, when the garbage trucks stop, when the Amazon people come and deliver stuff, you can't get by. And then when the young people show up on the weekends and stuff, you know, it gets a little more crowded. Now, I'm not saying I'm against the owner at all. You know, she's made the investment in the house, and we want to welcome her to the neighborhood. It's just that we're not that crazy about having the kind of business that she's expecting. Like, if she's real successful, and she's got a parking lot, which is good, but if she's really successful, there would be cars all over the place. And I would hope that your business is really successful. So that's the dilemma that I see in this situation. It's deep into the neighborhood. As you can see from this picture, there are these parking entrances which are right nearby. And we'd really like to keep that residential feel to it. So those are the notes I wanted to make. The last thing I wanted to say, though, is as much as I want to support, and we want to support a new business coming into the area. And confession, my wife and I are artists, so we'd love to talk to you more. But my concern is also that afterwards, and there was a comment made about if the building burnt down, which, God forbid, right? That's not so much my concern as being a longtime resident there. My concern would be when the owner decides to maybe retire and sell, and this is zoned up, and then the next person coming in could be doing, short of eating and drinking establishment stuff, a whole lot of other stuff which could be negatively affecting our neighborhood. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Young? Ms. Gaines?
Mr. Young, you do realize that the property is currently zoned for office.
Yes, and to that point, the longtime occupant was, I think, a therapy, like a therapy counseling office where, whoever it was, one or two clients would be coming and parking, and so yes, I mean, we're very familiar with that. That business was there for many, many years.
And that this, correct me if I'm wrong, staff, in its current conditional district office, that house could be torn down and a 2- or 3-story office building could be built under its current zoning. Is that a fair statement?
The existing conditions speak to either a single-family dwelling or professional offices. Actually, the standard about the existing structure to be retained is in the existing conditions.
So that's already in
So
place
she's taking that
on
forward
it.
into this request, yeah.
So it could be a more intense office use, but I looked up the condition too because I was curious. This appears to be going with the property. They want to keep the existing structure, so that part of it's not new. It's just a use change there.
Yeah.
And Mr. Engel, to add to my comments earlier, one thing I guess I forgot to mention is that in the commercial neighborhood zoning district, there are restrictions on the size of buildings in terms of square footage, that they have to orient to the street. Parking has to be located to the rear or the side of the building. So there are some things that are...
So it would be, if something did happen, it would actually end up being non-conforming, right? I mean, you'd have to come back to us, or they'd have to get more land. It'd be difficult.
I don't know yet.
It's a
it's
quarter
hard to
acre.
say, but yes, there are things that would use it to keep the scale of the building limited under that specific district. So I just wanted to add those comments.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
We have 4 minutes and 14 seconds remaining if anyone else would like to speak in opposition. If you'd give your name and address, please.
Locklear, and I live at 1919 Bradford Street. And my main concern for the new business on Bradford Street is the potential traffic that it will bring. I know Mrs. Mayor would like to see her business grow and become a bustling business like she did state. And I know that will cause more traffic. And we have children that walk to school there, get off the bus there. I have a grandchild that's 2. And we like our neighborhood the way it is. And I know we can't always keep things the same, and we have to grow. But as far as Bradford Street, there's no room to grow. There is no room to grow. And I measured the street myself, and it's more than 17 feet. It's actually 21 feet and 4 inches. And minus the car that is parked on Bradford, which is that is my car there, you would have you would have 14 feet left to go either way. And that really puts a strain on. We don't get a lot of street work because we're so narrow. I mean, all the streets in the neighborhood practically has been repaved, but ours has not, and it's really a torn-up street. And I have nothing against her business, and I wish her the best. But my biggest concern is the potential traffic that would cause more congestion.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? We have 2 minutes and 35 seconds remaining. Seeing none, then the applicant has up to 5 minutes of rebuttal time. If you'd like to come back and identify yourself again, if you would, please.
Hi, again, I'm Susan Mayer, 1906 North Elm Street. I think these are very valid concerns. I know if I lived on this street, I would want clarification. If I feel that the people will travel down State Street to get to this business. Farther on down Elm Street, it's very residential. It's very convoluted of you have to turn up one street and down the other. I don't think that would be a route that people would use very much. It would be accessed by State Street. There is additional parking that is offered to vendors of State Street at the church on the weekend because it does get congested out there. I myself usually leave my car at home and walk because I'm about 2 blocks away. So that's certainly an option if it seems that parking is getting tight. But I mean, I do take their concerns seriously. Again, having looked at many properties, I was probably just as tickled with that I owned a parking lot as I was to this 100-year-old house that needs love. But I'm hoping that the parking lot will take care of that. People will access it by State Street. They will have to go down the street passing 3 residences, maybe close to 4, and then turn into the business. So thank you again.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
The parking lot in question, and I saw it, but I'm trying to, in my mind, how many cars would you estimate could park there?
I have the dimensions here for the parking lot. I had a site plan done. We can either share it on the overhead or I'd be happy to hand it to you. The parking lot, right here. So half of the property is parking lot, so it is.
I need you to speak into the microphone, Ms. Mayor.
So this is the building, and this is the parking lot, which, I mean, could even be extended if it needed to be. I realize I will have to meet with the building inspector and upgrade the ADA and those types of things, so it's possible that it could be extended a bit. As far as how many cars, again, it's approximately 100 or maybe 90 by 45 at this point. I don't know what my vehicle math is, but I would say at least 12, 15 vehicles at this point that could suit.
And from a square footage perspective on retail, knowing that you're probably going to have a back room, a bathroom.
Absolutely.
You're not taking away the structure itself. It's got to have different rooms. How many square feet of retail are you going to have?
The actual house is 1,400 square feet.
Yeah,
there is a back porch that was closed in that is another 200 and some square feet, but it can't be included because the ceiling is like 7 feet tall. Or 6 foot something. We have it laid out to where there's only 3 rooms of the home, the initial room, the next room, and one other room, and the front porch. The rest of it
and
is
then
workspace.
Whatever you do outside, right? You said you'd mentioned some greenery or some things you might.
Yes, we're big into gardening, showcasing urban gardening, raised bed. I grow an obnoxious amount of produce at my house on Elm Street. Just showing people that you don't have to have acreage, that you can have, a pot of something. And so we want to show that. As far as when we're open, we would have some plants out showing that they're for sale, but those wouldn't be out all the time. So it would be a lot of landscaping involved, for cut flowers, sunflowers, those type of things. But I don't envision very much outside unless we are open for business, showing what our latest plants are that we're featuring, that type of thing.
Any other questions?
It appeared to me when I was looking at State Street that the existing businesses on State Street have about enough space for a car or two in front of each business, and that's it.
And especially with the restaurants, people are stopping. Now, there is parking at the church that's just right around the corner, and all of those buildings have parking behind them. But people that are stopping, they have like a lane blocked off for to-go orders. So it is pretty bustling on Friday night, which I'm tickled with, but I understand the concerns.
Yep. And your property would provide more parking than that.
Yes. Again, that was a huge factor in why I chose this, is because I certainly when I first moved here, I rented in Glenwood and I had no off-street parking. Yes, I have a healthy respect for that because, it's a thing. And and this is a very well-maintained gravel area.
Any other questions? Thank you. And there's 3 minutes and 35 seconds left of rebuttal time if anyone else in favor has another comment. Seeing none, the opposition has up to 5 minutes also of rebuttal time if you want to make any further comment. Yes, if you would like to make any additional comments or responses, you can come to the podium, and you have up to 5 minutes. And just for the record, if you'd identify yourself again, please.
Okay, my name is Andrew Young. I live on 1907 Bradford Street, District Number 2, 27405. I really dislike this format where it's confrontational, like sides, right? I mean, I want to make it clear to the commissioners that we would like to see economic growth in our city, and we like all the shops that are opening up. And Ms. Susan might know that there was actually a shop very similar to what you were describing, where Eclectic by Nature is. I mean, that was there for quite a while. So we like that. But again, I don't want to keep on reiterating. I think the major issue is State Street is a commercial street, and that's where a lot of the traffic and business belongs. And I think it's a legitimate thing for us to be saying, like, we really want to keep this as a residential area. That's and keep that flavor. I don't like this kind of this side and that side kind of thing, because it's unnecessary. But I'll say it this way, since we have to do this kind of like pro and con thing, if the owner wanted to open a shop like this on State Street, then she should have opened it on State Street. Alliance doesn't own all of State Street. If there are other properties as well, and that's kind of a mean thing to say, but if the owner wants to take advantage of the State Street business, which we're all for, and supporting local stuff, then my appeal would be, please, to all entrepreneurs, we have existing spaces there, and and my greatest fear, as I said, is not the good intentions of this owner, but it's in maybe 5 years' time when she decides to move on. Then we might be seeing like a wildly successful business that's got cars all over the place. And as far as I know, once you start zoning up, so to speak, you don't start zoning down. It stays in that status, and it'll be much, much tougher to try to fend that off. So anyway, I've said too much, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. We do have another 2 minutes and 22 seconds if anybody else wants to speak in opposition during this time. Okay, seeing no other speakers, we will close the public hearing unless commissioners have any further questions.
So I have a question. I know this doesn't necessarily call for a traffic impact study, right, if this were to be approved, but I did hear the concerns from the neighbors about parking and traffic, and so I guess what would be, I guess city staff would perhaps know if this were to go forward or not, what would be the recommendation for a impact study of some sort if that were the case?
So we have Denise Conway online, who is representative of our transportation department, can kind of speak to that, I guess, from plan review discussion.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Hi, this is Denise Conway with GDOT. So yeah, the size of this particular property will not require a traffic impact study because it's much smaller than what we would require for a study. But again, this is the good thing about this particular property is that it does have its own parking lot. And so they would be required to have, you know, the number of spaces for this particular business. And so they have a parking lot to be able to store their vehicles. But, you know, Bradford Street is a local street. It's a local residential street. And so, yeah, if there could be some additional traffic, but again, it's a local street that, you know, there's parking allowed on both sides. That could be something that we could look at, you know, later in the future if that becomes an issue with the parking on the street and vehicles being able to navigate. That is something that we could look at later in the future. But as it stands right now, there is parking that is allowed on Bradford Street.
Does that answer?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Conway. Any further questions? Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Do the commissioners have any comments before we have a motion or a vote? Ms. Gaines?
When we created the LDO, we went to some additional steps to create this commercial neighborhood district. We saw State Street coming. We saw what was going on downtown. So there was a whole zoning classification that was created just for what is being described, so that you can have other uses that are not intensely commercial. The zoning matrix, there's more N's than there are P's, which means not permitted. P's are specifically what has been described to us regarding neighborhood scale of, you know, crafts, galleries, educational uses. If she wanted to do classes on gardening, I see what the current zoning is as commercial office as much more intensive than what is being proposed. And although technically it's not a down zoning, from a use standpoint, I think it could be considered much less intensive than what the current zoning is. So I'll be supporting the request.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. Any other comments?
I think for me, and I'll, Mr. Young, I will say I know these can be frustrating with the adversarial nature. The hope through notification is that some of these conversations happen before the hearing. It's more effective. And having said that, my hope is that after the hearing tonight, you all will continue that conversation, your neighbors. And it sounds like you've bought this property, so you're going to be neighbors. Where this comes down to, for me, I will echo some of the things that Commissioner Skeen said. The use table, as I look at it, the fact that they are not allowing eating and drinking establishments, which would be probably the most obnoxious thing that would be on that street. But from office to very light retail sales, given the footprint of the property and the parking that exists there, you know, when you look at State Street, a lot of those places are there, and they don't technically own the parking that seems to be used, or they're leasing, or however you want to look at it. And I know when I've gone out there, it's been difficult to find a parking spot. So the fact that this business will probably have parking and probably signs that say you'll be towed if you're not in here gives me a little bit of hope that this will be a good neighbor. I was certainly coming in here tonight, thought about the risk of what would happen if the property, you know, was to change. Looking at the development standards around it, I think the risk is minimal. And so I'll be supporting it this evening for those reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Ms. Maggot?
I'd just like to say, for the neighbor that lives across the street, hopefully the parking lot will accommodate some of that parking concern that you may have. Thank you so much.
Anyone? Mr. Downing?
Yes, and driving through the neighborhood, I did not see any negative signs to say otherwise, but I will say it is great to have neighbors that can converse and talk about the pros and the cons of such an entity. I will also be supporting this initiative because, as my colleagues have said, I do not believe it's going to be grossly a big issue. But I will say the continued neighborhood collaboration and talking is going to continue to be a very important area. And I do want to give credulity to the opposition, but also to those who are for it. So I will be supporting this initiative.
Thank you. Any other comments? I would echo probably all the previous comments. I do take exception, as Mr. Young brought up. I immediately noticed the distance from State Street to the actual property. So that is a distance to move down the street, and I appreciate the neighbors and their concern and their pride and their ownership. I also appreciate the fact that the neighbors can speak on either side of this fence and talk about what is planned for that particular area. And I am persuaded that there is enough conditions in that particular zoning that we would be restricted even if this business succeeded and then passed to the next owner who wanted to place something else. I think there are enough restrictions there to protect the neighborhood. So while I am sensitive to it and probably more hesitant than some of the other speakers, I will be voting in favor of this.
I would like to make a motion.
Please.
I would like to make a motion in support of this particular item Z23-06005 in Warshay Downing. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its action to recommend approval of the zoning request for the properties at 1918 and 1920 Bradford Street from CDO Conditional District Office to CDCN Conditional District Commercial Neighborhood to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 comprehensive plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. Factors that support approval of the rezoning request. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed CDCN zoning district permits use that fits the context of surrounding areas and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area, and it will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Thank you, Mr. Downing.
Second, Catherine Magid.
Thank you, Ms. Magid. We have a motion and a second. Any further comment? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, this is the final approval unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. Anyone may file such an appeal. All such appeals will be subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. All adjoining property owners will be notified of any such appeal. Thank you. We still have some items on our agenda. We have a public hearing on the CAPER report.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Unica Smalls, and I am one of 2 assistant directors in the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department.
Good evening. My name is Shantae Fleming. I am the new Community Development Analyst in Housing and Neighborhood Development. Thank you for the opportunity to do our public hearing at your meeting for our 2022-2023 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report that we submit to HUD every year, which is Housing and Urban Development. I have a few brief slides that shows the funding that we did receive from HUD and how some of those dollars were spent. So for fiscal year 22-23, for the Community Development Block Grant, we received $2,374,935. For Home Investment Partnership Program, we received $2,028,863. For Home ARP, we received $6,601,774. Emergency Solutions Grant, we received $196,979. For Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, which is HOPWA, we received $1,120,999. Gave us a total of $12,323,523. Program income that was received during the fiscal year 22-23 was $357,000.56. So that gave us a total funding of $12,829,880.56. As far as the HUD expenditures, we spent for CDBG $1,348,158.28. For CDBG CV, which is coronavirus funding, $415,634.35. For Home, $180,659.35. Emergency Solution Grants, $112,805.27. And ESGCV, which is coronavirus funding, $1,647,190.84. For HOPWA, $249,923.36. And then for HOPWA CV, which is coronavirus funding, $23,176. And that is a total expended of $3,977,547.45. Some of the accomplishments, some of the things that the funding was spent on: multifamily construction, 84 units, $120,699.35. Note that the total project was $1,200,000 with federal dollars. For multifamily rehab, we had 6 units, $220,001.90. For single family rehab, lead safe, 30 units at $189,425.42. Home buyer assistance, $60,000. There was a total of 76 home buyers assisted, 5 with federal dollars. And then for home buyer education, $65,290, with a total of 581 residents that received that education. So that was a total of 706. For homelessness prevention, medium-term rental assistance, 100 households were served. Emergency shelter, 807 people. Permanent housing placement, 7 people, gave us a total of 914 people or households that were served. And again, this is federal dollars. Emergency assistance, rent and utility assistance, 77 households. Mortgage assistance was 20 households, and that gave us a total of 97 households. So our CAPER is located at www.greensboro-nc.gov/CAPER, and we'll open it up for any questions or comments for our public hearing.
I just have one question. Last year, you received U.S. Treasury assistance, pandemic assistance that affected 2,400 people with rent and utilities. I'm kind of a budget nerd, so I remember that. Did you receive any of that this year?
We were just recently awarded another $85,000. We, of course, won't be able to service as many residents with that, but we did just received an award in April for $85,000. It was called the Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
For rental.
Utilities were covered as well.
Okay. So that was about the 700 people, residents that were affected by the...
Actually, we served many more with the ERAP funding that came from the Treasury Department. Yes. Primarily in Districts 1 and 2.
Terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm very appreciative of the accountability to the public for letting them know what has happened with funds that were received and distributed. And the reach is wide. So I just compliment you and thank you very much for this report.
I know sometimes these are late nights. I want to thank you for actually coming. We've had some folks that have phoned it in. Your being here and being present really shows how much you care about it, and thank you for that.
So we're trying to be very intentional with our community outreach effort and opening up a dialogue that's positive and productive for the citizens of Greensboro.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in chambers or online that would like to speak, since this is a public hearing? Apparently not. I don't know if any other commissioners have any comments or questions. We truly appreciate your report. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And we'll close that public hearing. I believe Ms. Schwartz was going to make a presentation this evening as well.
Yes, and let me shut off this presentation first.
So I'm hoping you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay. And I apologize, commissioners. I swear I'm not phoning this in. This is a simple report. We wanted to make the commission aware of a funding opportunity that the city of Greensboro will be making an application for. Earlier this summer, the administration made available $85 million for something called Pro Housing Grants. The PRO stands for Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing. This grant money is at $85 million. The minimum award to applicants is $1 million. And as it says, it is probably one of the most comprehensive grant programs I've seen coming out of HUD in decades. It is to thoroughly look at and remove obstacles to different housing options for our communities. So we intend to build upon the comprehensive plan, the housing GSO plan, the studies that were done by the Opticos company on missing middle, and using that as the foundation, we intend to submit an application for three approaches. Number one, strategic updates to the land development ordinance to allow more housing types and varieties throughout the city. Number two, education, because we believe that one of the biggest obstacles, and you see it every month, is public acceptance to different housing types and gentle increases to density and different housing options. So we are looking for not only education for community education, but we've heard from both for-profit and nonprofit builders that they need to upskill to build these different housing types. And lastly, which in partnership with Housing and Neighborhood Development Department, we would be looking for demonstration projects. One of the things about Greensboro, people are afraid of things they don't see or haven't seen. So looking for demonstration projects to show how well a fourplex, a triplex, a set of duplexes can fit within an existing community. So we're looking at about 1.3 to 1.6 million in our request. We do have to locate some matching funds, but it's not dollar for dollar. And we're looking at bringing that to you next month. We'll bring the full application. In the meantime, as we get the information pulled together with various partners and more details, we will send that out to you for your comment and input as we create this this application. It is due October 30th, so we have a little bit of time, but that's really not a lot. But I wanted to bring the topic to you so you could be aware of it and know that it was coming next month, and to look at your inboxes and see some information about it. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Not seeing any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're really excited. This is a chance to really take some good, some policies and things that we've all talked about and really move them forward for the city of Greensboro.
Thank you very much. I think that there's a possibility there for a lot of great initiatives coming forward. And hopefully
we're excited. Cross
some
your
that will
fingers.
educate the public in working with us and helping to make things easier for them.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have, any other comments on that? We're appreciative. We have, I'd like to make note, it was interesting this evening to have such an accelerated agenda. That's a rare occurrence, and it's rare over a time that we've had so many commissioners present at one time. So I'm also very appreciative of that. Notably absent is Mr. Vernal Alford, who completed 6 years as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and so he has moved on. But we have appreciated very much his service. As long as I have been on the commission, he was always there, so he was the anchor. And to me, he was a commissioner's commissioner, because not only did he go to sites and survey them and study them, as we all do, but he would go out and actually take photos and make notes while he was in the field to make certain that he was absolutely careful about what he was considering, and I think a model for all of us to follow. So I, for one, and I'm sure with others, appreciate very much the service that he's given us over the years, and we wish him the very best. We know he has more to do. Also, we will take items from the planning department, and then council said they would help us with our election for a chair and vice chair for the coming year.
We don't have any additional items from the department.
Thank you.
Could I take this moment to ask you how many cases we have next month?
You sure could, and I'll let Mr. Carter answer that question.
I think we have 4. I will check and make absolutely certain.
So 11 meetings left for me, and the next one's going to be with 4. Yes. All right.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to you, Brent.
All right. And Chair O'Connor, as you noted, this evening we do need to do the elections for the chair and vice chair of the board. I'd just like to quickly run through the process that we should use here, and then we can certainly get going on that. So the way we should do this, we should get a nomination for a candidate and then a second for that nomination. At that stage, the candidate can go ahead and accept the nomination. Once we have all the nominations in, the candidates could go ahead and give a brief statement about why they accepted the nomination, why they would like to serve in that capacity. And once those statements have occurred, we can then hear a motion for each candidate, one at a time. Of course, every commissioner must vote on those votes. And of course, if a candidate gets the majority of the votes, well, then that resolves the matter as far as who the chair is. We then move on to the vice chair election. So, and of course, repeat the same process. So, to open it up, if we have, well, first off, any questions, certainly, but if not, I would say take nominations for the chair of the board.
I'd like to nominate a person.
All right,
I'd
Commissioner
like
Engel.
to nominate Sandra O'Connor, if she's willing to do it again, to be our chair. I appreciated your leadership these last 2 years, and I'd like to serve out my final year with you. So.
All right, and I hear some affirmation of that, but could I get a second from that? All right. And do we have any other nominations? Okay, well, if not, let's go ahead and I suppose make it formal and call the
And Ms. O'Connor is accepting the nomination, just to be clear.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I would
Thanks, Mike.
appreciate that, and I appreciate being here.
And, yeah, certainly if we want to go ahead and take the vote on that, just to be clear.
Can we just all say yes, or what do we do?
Yeah, just, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Just for sake of it. And with that resolved, Chair O'Connor, again, follow the same process for vice chair. Do we have a nomination for vice chair? Anybody?
I would like to nominate Catherine Magid for vice chair.
All right. And
If she will accept that nomination.
I second.
all right. I heard a second. I heard the acceptance.
You heard
Any other nomination?
Say aye. No, I don't want to do it. I just want to vote her and be.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's it, let's go ahead and
Yeah.
go ahead and have a
let's
vote.
just-
And be
I'm just
done.
saying, let's roll this along.
All right,
Everybody
go ahead.
wants her. Aye.
Folks, go ahead.
Aye.
All right. Well, there we have it. Commissioner Magid, vice chair, and that resolves it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, we're excited. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chair O'Connor.
If we don't have any other business from commissioners at this meeting, then I'm sure that we have a motion to adjourn.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Recording stopped.